The final flight and a decision no one saw coming. Sky was gray over the airport that evening, and the wind pushed softly against the tall glass walls of Terminal 4. Inside, people rushed from gate to gate, dragging suitcases behind them, checking screens, holding coffee, calling home. There was noise, chatter, and stress everywhere. But at gate 26, a quiet man in a plain black jacket stood still, waiting. Keanu Reeves had just finished a long week filming in a remote location. The schedule had been rough, the days long, and his body was aching. All he wanted now was to get back to Los Angeles and sleep in his own bed. He had booked the last seat available on the final flight out that night. It was a small airport, not many options. If he missed it, he would be stuck until morning. He looked tired, but calm. No sunglasses, no hat, just a backpack and a boarding pass in his hand. Behind him in the line stood a woman, around 30 years old, holding a crying baby and trying to keep her toddler from running away. Her name was Elena. She looked exhausted, like the weight of the entire world was pressing down on her shoulders. Her eyes were red, her hands shaky, and she had been whispering to her kids the whole time, "Just a little longer, baby, or we'll be home soon." The toddler dropped his stuffed giraffe and started crying. The baby joined him, screaming louder. Keanu turned around slowly, bent down, and picked up the giraffe. He handed it to the little boy with a gentle smile. "He looks like a fighter," Keanu said softly. Elena tried to smile back, but her eyes welled up. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You're not," Keanu said kindly. "You're doing your best." When they reached the front of the line, the gate agent frowned. She checked Elena's ticket and shook her head. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Your flight was overbooked. There's only one seat left." Elena's face dropped. "What do you mean? I booked it last week. I confirmed it, please. I have to get home." "I understand," the agent said gently, "but we had an issue with our system. There was a double booking. Only one passenger can board." Keanu was next. He handed over his ticket quietly. The agent scanned it. It beeped green. He looked at Elena, then at her children. Then back at the agent. "Can you transfer my ticket to her?" he asked. The agent froze. "Sir, are you sure?" "Yes," he said. "She needs it more than I do." Elena blinked, confused. "No, wait, what? You can't do that." Keanu smiled at her. Not the kind of smile you give when you're trying to be a hero. It was soft, tired, honest. "You need to get home." "I'll be fine." Tears spilled from Elena's eyes. "You don't even know me. I don't have to." The gate agent quickly printed a new boarding pass and handed it to Elena. People nearby had stopped to watch. One woman pulled out her phone to record, but Keanu gently raised a hand and shook his head. "No cameras, no spotlight. Just kindness." Elena boarded with her kids, holding them close. She kept looking back at him through the glass, whispering, "Thank you, thank you." And then the gate closed. Keanu stood there, alone, as the plane pulled away from the terminal. A man beside him finally asked, "Why'd you do that?" Keanu looked out at the runway and said, "Because I remember what it felt like to be helpless, to be tired, and to need someone to care." He sat down in the empty terminal, sipping a bottle of water. He didn't know yet what that one small act would set in motion. He didn't know that Elena's journey wasn't just about getting home. And he didn't know that this night would come back to him in a way he could never expect. The letter she almost didn't write. The plane had taken off into the night sky, and Keanu Reeves remained behind in the near-empty airport. He sat near the window, watching the blinking red tail lights of the aircraft disappear into the dark clouds. The terminal lights buzzed quietly above him, and the cleaning crew had already begun their shift, moving slowly through the gates. He had no interviews scheduled, no manager calling, no press waiting, just the silence and the feeling that he had done something right. Meanwhile, high above the earth, Elena sat with her 2 children on the flight. The toddler finally slept on her shoulder. The baby nestled against her chest. The last few hours had felt like a storm, but now she had peace, and the man who gave it to her was still sitting on that cold chair far behind. She kept thinking about his eyes, the way he looked at her, not like a celebrity, not like a stranger, but like a person, someone who understood pain, someone who had lived it. By the time the plane landed and she reached her small apartment. Elena was exhausted, but she couldn't sleep. Something inside her told her that what happened couldn't be left in silence. So she sat at her kitchen table, in her old sweater, and opened her laptop. She wasn't sure what to say. She wasn't even sure if it would reach him, but she typed, "Dear Keanu, you probably won't remember me. I was the tired mother with 2 kids at the airport. You gave me your last ticket and didn't ask for anything in return. I don't know how to thank you, but I want to tell you something. My husband died 2 months ago in a construction accident. The insurance has been delayed. The bills are piling up. I flew to attend his memorial in his home state and didn't have enough money for anything more than that last flight home. If we had missed it, I would have had to sleep in the airport with 2 kids and no food. You saved us from more than you know. You didn't just give us your ticket, you gave us dignity. If you ever read this, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Elena Ramirez." She hesitated, then hit send. The email was sent to a public fan inbox that probably got thousands of messages every week. She didn't expect a reply. She didn't even expect it to be read, but it felt right to say thank you. And then days passed. Keanu, back in Los Angeles, had gone back to work, but something about that night at the airport lingered in his thoughts. He hadn't told anyone, not his team, not the press, not even his close friends. He didn't need to. But then his assistant walked into his trailer holding a printout. "This came through your inbox," she said. "I think you'll want to read it." He read the letter slowly, twice, and then sat still for a long time. He remembered the woman, the toddler's stuffed giraffe, the tears in her eyes. He didn't expect this. He didn't expect her story to break something open inside him. After a long pause, he picked up his phone and made a call. "I want to find her," he said quietly. "Not for publicity, just because I need to know if she's okay." His team searched quietly. No public posts, no reporters, just quiet connections through trusted people. And soon, he had a name, an address, and a city. He didn't send money. He didn't send a gift basket. He wrote a letter, handwritten, folded neatly in an envelope. "Dear Elena, thank you for your letter. I do remember you and your children. I saw something in your eyes that night, a kind of strength the world doesn't celebrate enough. I don't want this to be a moment that passes. I want it to be something that lifts us both. Please let me help, not just for that night but for the days ahead. With respect and quiet admiration, Keanu." He signed it simply and attached a small card. It was an invitation to a private dinner. Not for show, not for cameras, just to talk. When Elena received it, she cried again. But this time, it wasn't from fear or sadness. It was because for the first time since her husband died, someone saw her, not as a widow, not as a mother, not as a burden, but as a human being worthy of care. And that's when the real story began, because what she didn't know, what even Keanu didn't know, was that her son was carrying a drawing in his tiny backpack. A drawing that would soon change everything. The child's drawing and a promise. Remembered invitation arrived quietly, without a courier. Just an envelope slipped gently into the mailbox. Elena opened it while her children napped. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the letter. It was written in clean handwriting, neat and simple. But the words carried something deep, something more than kindness. It was like someone had seen the pain she tried so hard to hide. For days after reading it, Elena sat at her kitchen table staring at the envelope. She kept rereading the last line. "Please let me help, not just for that night but for the days ahead." She had never been given anything without conditions. Even sympathy often came wrapped in pity. But this was different, and it scared her. Not because she didn't trust him, but because for the first time, someone wasn't offering charity. He was offering dignity. On the morning of the dinner, she dressed carefully. Not fancy, just clean and honest. A simple blouse, jeans, her hair tied back neatly. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't try to impress. Her children, Jonas and Sophia, were dressed in their best. Jonas, her 5-year-old, insisted on bringing something. He didn't tell her what it was. He just tucked it into his little backpack and said, "I made it for the nice man." They arrived at a quiet restaurant tucked into the corner of a hillside neighborhood. In Los Angeles, there were no paparazzi, no fans, no flash, Just soft lights, tall trees, and peace. Keanu was already there, waiting at a small table in the garden, sipping tea, when he saw them. He stood up and smiled, not a big movie smile, just a warm, gentle one that made everything feel okay. "You made it," he said softly. Elena nodded, suddenly shy. "We did. Thank you for this. I didn't know if I should come." "I'm glad you did," Keanu said. Jonas tugged at his mom's sleeve. "Can I give it to him now?" Keanu knelt down to the boy's level. "What do you have there, buddy?" Jonas pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a drawing done in crayon. It showed an airplane in the sky, a woman holding two kids, and a man in black handing her a golden ticket. Above the picture were 5 simple words, written in shaky, crooked letters. "You gave us our wings." Keanu took the drawing slowly. His hands didn't move for a moment. He looked at the picture, then at Jonas, then at Elena. "This is the best thing I've been given in years," he said softly. "Thank you." They sat down for dinner. It wasn't about expensive food or quiet service. It was about conversation, about warmth, about 2 lives that were never supposed to meet, yet somehow did. Elena told her story, how her husband worked 3 jobs, how he died on a site where safety was ignored, how she fought every day just to keep food on the table and her kids in school. Keanu didn't interrupt. He listened like every word mattered. "Sometimes I feel like the world forgot about us," she said. "Like we just slipped through the cracks." "I think the world does that," Keanu replied. "But some people notice, they just don't always know what to do." "So you gave us your ticket?" "No," he said. "I gave you what I wish someone had given me when I was lost, a way forward." Elena blinked, surprised. "You lost?" He nodded. "I've lost people too. I've been alone in airports, too tired to cry, too broken to ask for help. Sometimes the only thing that keeps you going is knowing someone still sees you." They sat together long. After the plates were cleared, the kids played nearby, laughing under the garden lights. And then Keanu said something that changed everything. "I want to set something up for you. Not a handout, not pity. Something you can grow with. Something that's yours." Elena looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "A job, training, support, and a small trust for your kid's future. Not as a gift, as an investment in you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything yet. Think about it. Let your heart decide." Elena nodded slowly, overwhelmed, but inside, a door that had been closed for so long creaked open, because someone believed in her, not because she was perfect, not because she was famous, but because she was strong. And someone finally saw that. When the night ended, Keanu hugged the children, shook Elena's hand, and told her quietly, "You're not alone anymore." As they walked away into the night, Jonas looked up at his mother. "Mommy, is he an angel?" She smiled through her tears. "Maybe. Or maybe he's just what kindness looks like." What no one knew was that someone else had been watching. A man at a nearby table. A stranger with his own story. A story that would soon bring everything full circle. The man in the corner booth. And a secret from the past. Next morning, Keanu Reeves sat at his kitchen table. The child's drawing laid out gently before him. His fingers brushed the edges like it was something sacred. For a moment, the world outside his windows didn't matter. No phones, no contracts, no spotlight. Just that picture and the quiet power behind it. He smiled to himself, remembering how Elena's little boy had looked up at him and said, "You gave us our wings." That sentence had stayed with him like a soft echo. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. What Keanu didn't know was that their dinner had left a bigger ripple than either of them imagined. In the far corner of the restaurant that night sat a man named Samuel Grant. He wore a plain brown jacket and kept to himself, slowly sipping coffee and watching the garden lights dance against the walls. He had arrived early for a meeting that never happened. Instead, he witnessed something no camera could catch: Keanu giving his time, his heart, and his presence to a stranger and her children. Samuel wasn't just anyone. He was the founder of a private educational trust that helped single mothers re-enter the workforce through training, job placement, and family care. He rarely interfered in public stories, but what he saw that night moved him deeply. Not just Keanu's kindness, but Elena's strength, her presence, her calm dignity. Even when she was unsure. The next morning, Samuel found Elena's name through quiet channels. He didn't reach out immediately. He waited. He wanted to see if what he felt that night was real or just a moment of inspiration. 3 days later, he visited the community center where Elena sometimes volunteered. She was there holding Sophia in one arm while helping a little girl find books for school. Samuel approached her slowly. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I saw you the other night at the garden restaurant." Elena turned, startled. "Oh, yes," he smiled. "I watched something rare. You probably don't remember me, but your story stayed with me." She looked confused. "I'm sorry. He held up a hand. "You don't need to remember me. I just came to say something." He reached into his jacket and handed her a card. It read, "Grant Foundation, Restoring Futures for Mothers with Courage. We help women like you build something lasting, not just money, opportunity. We don't do this for fame. We do this because stories like yours deserve a better ending." Elena's hands trembled. "I don't know what to say." "You already said it," he replied. "You said it by surviving." Meanwhile, back at home, Keanu was reading through plans with his team. The trust he promised to build for Elena's children was growing into something bigger. He wanted to include other families, other mothers who had slipped through the cracks. "I'm not doing this to start a charity," he said to his assistant. "I'm doing this because someone reminded me that even in the dark, people shine." The assistant nodded. "You sure you want your name on it?" Keanu shook his head. "No, name it after her." "Elena, yes. Call it Elena's Wings. Make it real." That same day, Elena received 2 phone calls, one from the Grant Foundation, the other from a counselor who had heard about the dinner through quiet channels and wanted to offer therapy and support for her children free of charge. It felt like a wave was moving through her life. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was drowning. But something even more unexpected happened that week. Jonas came home from school carrying a folder. Inside it was a flyer about a local art competition for children. "Mom, can I draw something for this?" he asked. Elena smiled. "Of course, baby. What will you draw?" "I want to draw him again, the man who gave us the golden ticket." He pulled out his crayons and spent 2 quiet hours at the kitchen table. When he finished, Elena looked at it and gasped softly. The picture showed an airport. Keanu standing tall, handing over a ticket, but in the background, Jonas had drawn something new. 2 large wings behind Keanu, bright, golden, glowing. "Why did you draw wings on him?" she asked. Jonas smiled. "Because I think he had them the whole time. He just didn't know." When Keanu saw the drawing a few days later, delivered by mail, he sat alone on his couch, holding it close. He didn't cry, but something in him healed a little more. And then one morning he received a call. "Mr. Reeves, this is Samuel Grant. I believe we've both crossed paths with the same extraordinary woman." Keanu leaned forward. "Go on. I think it's time we all meet." A table of 3 and the power of one. Yes, KeanuReeves sat in a quiet office nestled above the city, where glass walls reflected the slow-setting sun. In his hands, he held Jonas's newest drawing, the one with golden wings stretched behind him. He had pinned it beside his piano, a daily reminder of the night everything changed. But now, something else stirred inside him. The call with Samuel Grant had opened a door. Samuel was more than a philanthropist. He was a man who saw stories. The way artists saw light, every line mattered. And after meeting Elena quietly and observing her strength, her commitment to her children, and the quiet humility with which she carried her grief, he believed something powerful. Elena wasn't just someone to help. She was someone who could help others. And now, all 3 would meet, not as charity, not as a favor, but as partners. They gathered at a simple wooden table in a private room of a small non-profit building. No cameras, no reporters, just 3 people who had been pulled into each other's lives by kindness, heartbreak, and fate. Keanu was the first to speak. "Elena, you didn't just change that night for me. You reminded me that sometimes the smallest moment becomes the biggest turning point." She looked down, quiet. "I still don't feel like I did anything special. You didn't have to." Samuel said, "You showed up, you survived, and you kept your children safe. That's more than most people can carry." Keanu reached into his coat pocket and placed a small folder on the table. "I've already started a seed fund," he said, "but I don't want to build something for you. I want to build something with you." Elena's brows lifted, unsure. "What do you mean?" Samuel leaned forward. "We want to open a community hub, not just a shelter. A real center where mothers like you can come, breathe, learn, grow, not just survive, but rebuild." Elena swallowed hard. "And you want me to help lead it?" Keanu nodded. "You already have," without knowing it. Her eyes filled with tears, and she covered her mouth. "But I don't have a degree. I'm not trained. I'm just someone who needed help." Samuel smiled. "That's exactly why you're right for this. We're not looking for someone polished. We're looking for someone real." Keanu added softly, "People trust you, Elena, because you've lived it." The room was still. Her hands trembled slightly on the table, and then she said it. Yes, it was soft, but powerful. Like a stone dropped into still water. Plans began to unfold fast. The center would be called the Wings House, named not for Keanu, not even for Elena, but for what the boy had seen. The golden wings of quiet, selfless strength. Keanu would remain behind the scenes. His funding would build the foundation, but his name wouldn't appear on the door. He didn't want praise. He wanted impact. Samuel brought in architects, planners, and counselors. And Elena, she stepped into the role with quiet fire. She listened to stories of other women, mothers, widows, immigrants, survivors. She hugged them, cried with them, encouraged them. She built programs that included job training, therapy, after-school care, and even art spaces for children like Jonas and Sophia. Jonas became known at the center as the boy with the golden crayons. His drawings were pinned to every room, messages of hope from a child who had once felt invisible. One day, while sweeping the front porch of the nearly completed center, Elena looked up and saw Keanu walking toward her. No cameras, no crowd. He handed her a letter. "What's this?" she asked. "Something personal," he said. "Read it when you're ready." That night, when the kids were asleep, Elena opened the letter. "Dear Elena, I gave you a seat on a plane, but you gave me something more. You reminded me of the boy I used to be, the one who needed someone to believe in him. You reminded me of why I act, not for fame, but for moments like this where truth, pain, and love mix into something real. You are not a project, you are not a story, you are a leader, and I'll always be in your corner." Keanu, she folded the letter slowly and held it to her chest. Because sometimes, one act of kindness opens a path not just for one person, but for hundreds who will follow. And the man who gave up a single ticket that night, he was now part of something that would last generations. Wings for others, and the journey home. The grand opening of the Wings House arrived quietly, without noise or flashing lights, just the slow gathering of people who had once felt invisible. Women stood shoulder to shoulder, some with children in their arms, some holding resumes, some holding nothing but hope. And at the front stood Elena, not in a designer suit, not on a red carpet. Just a simple blue dress, a soft smile, and the strength of someone who had been through fire and come out with open arms. The building was painted in soft earth tones, with golden wings painted on the entrance wall. Beneath the wings, in small, simple writing, it read, "Hope needs no permission." Keanu arrived quietly, just as the doors opened. He didn't stand at the front. He didn't speak on the stage. He stood in the back, watching the people come in, watching children laugh, watching mothers sit down with counselors for the first time in their lives and say, "I'm ready to try." Jonas ran to him with another drawing, a building with wings on top and hearts in the windows. "We built it," Jonas said proudly. "You, Mommy, and Mr. Sam." Keanu knelt down. "You built it, buddy. I just gave up one little ticket." But that wasn't quite true. He had given up more than a seat on a plane. He had given up silence, given up being just an observer of the world's pain. He had stepped into someone's story, not to fix it but to walk beside it. And now, he watched what grew from that choice. Elena stepped to the front. The room fell silent. "This center isn't about me," she said gently. And it's not about Keanu or any one name. It's about all the people who never get seen, the mothers too tired to cry, the children who carry more than they should, and the strangers who show up at just the right moment with a gift they didn't know would change everything. There were tears in the crowd, some quiet sobs, some peaceful smiles. I used to think survival was enough, she continued, but now I know there is more than survival. There is healing, there is rebuilding, there is giving back. Keanu looked down, his eyes moist. Heartful. Samuel stood beside him and whispered, "She's going to lead hundreds." "No," Keanu said softly, "she's going to lead thousands." Weeks passed, then months, and the Wings House became more than a shelter. It became a movement. Other cities called, other foundations asked. Women who once sat in silence began to speak at events, telling their stories, not with shame but with power. And in the background, Keanu stayed quiet. He visited sometimes, not as a guest of honor, but as a volunteer. He painted fences. He read to children. He sat in the garden and listened. One day, as he swept the entry path of the building, a woman approached him with her daughter. She looked nervous, holding a folded flyer in her hands. "Is this where the Wings House is?" she asked. Keanu smiled. "Yes, it is. Are they really helping people here?" He nodded. "They are. I don't have a resume or anything." He looked at her gently. "You have a name?" "Yes, Nadia." "Then that's all you need to start." He opened the door for her. "Welcome home, Nadia." And just like that, another story began. But the story of Elena and Keanu didn't end there. They stayed friends, quietly bound by that moment in the airport, by the gift of a seat, by a child's drawing, and by the belief that kindness doesn't need attention. It only needs courage. Years later, at a celebration for the 5th anniversary of the Wings House, Jonas stood in front of the crowd, taller now, older, holding the original drawing in his hand. "My mom was my hero," he said, "but the man who gave us his ticket, he gave us something more. He gave us the chance to become heroes for others." Keanu sat in the audience, smiling through tears. Because sometimes a moment you don't plan becomes the legacy you never expected. And all it takes is one choice. One seat. One stranger, and one quiet yes.